The global economy has long been dominated by the US dollar, with the greenback serving as the primary currency for international transactions and as a reserve currency for many countries. However, in recent years, there has been a growing trend towards de-dollarization as countries seek to reduce their dependence on the dollar and diversify their reserves.
My goodness, what an idea. Why didn't I think of that?
This shift has major implications for the future of the global economy and could potentially reshape the geopolitical landscape. Which is why in this video, we will explore the causes and consequences of de-dollarization, as well as the challenges and opportunities it presents for countries around the world. De-dollarization refers to the process of reducing or eliminating the use of the US dollar in international transactions. But more than being replaced as a medium of exchange, the US dollar is also being replaced in forex reserves and foreign currency-denominated investments. This is alarming, because the dollar has dominated the global economy for the longest time, and we're talking as far back as the First World War. The aftermath of that war saw the US come out relatively unscathed and definitely better off than England, whose pound sterling was the dominant currency at the time. It also helps the US that it was receiving a lot of wartime gold at the time. So, the US was getting stronger, but it wasn't until after World War II when the US did not just come out unscathed, but emerged as the dominant economic and military power that the dollar's status as the world's reserve currency became a thing. And this thing was solidified by the Bretton Woods Agreement of 1944. The agreement established the US dollar as the international standard for currency exchange, with other countries needing to peg their currencies to the US dollar and the US promising to exchange dollars for gold at a fixed rate. It's easy to see how, over time, the US dollar's dominance became self-reinforcing, as it was widely accepted and trusted by investors and governments around the world, thanks in large part to the Bretton Woods Agreement. This made it easier for the US to borrow money from other countries, since other countries were willing to hold US dollars in reserve as a safe and stable store of value. It also gave the US considerable influence over global financial and economic affairs. Interestingly, the Bretton Woods system collapsed in the 1970s, but that didn't change anything. The effect was already ingrained. As you can imagine, using the US dollar for international transactions has its benefits and drawbacks. One benefit is that it provides a common currency that can facilitate trade and investment between countries, as well as making it easier to compare prices and conduct financial transactions. However, the downside is that it also exposes countries to the risk of US economic and political policies. For example, if the US were to impose economic sanctions on another country, that country's ability to conduct international trade could be severely limited if it relies on the US dollar. This is the primary reason that a number of countries are deciding to do without the US dollar. Before we get into that though, it's also worth noting that the US dollar is not the first currency to hold a dominant position in the world economy. In the past, other currencies, such as the British pound and the Spanish escudo, have also been widely used in international trade and finance. However, over time, their positions weakened as their home country's economic and political power declined. And the US dollar might just be next in line for this decline.
Decline.
In recent years, there's been a growing trend among countries to reduce their dependence on the US dollar and move towards other currencies. This trend has been driven by several factors, including concerns over US economic and political policies, a desire to reduce foreign exchange risk, and a push to promote other currencies as alternatives to the US dollar. One country that's made significant strides in de-dollarization is China. China has been promoting the use of its currency, the yuan, in international trade and investment for a while now. In fact, it has gone as far as signing currency swap agreements with other countries to facilitate the use of the yuan in cross-border transactions, and established yuan clearing agreements with a number of them. Just so we're all on the same page, a currency swap agreement allows two parties, or countries in this case, to exchange the principal amount of a loan and its interest in one currency for the same in another currency at the spot rate. What this means is that countries would be able to give and receive loans without using the US dollar as a medium of exchange. China has also established the Cross-Border Interbank Payment System, CIPS, a payment system that bypasses the US dollar to offer clearing and settlement services. In addition, China has been working to establish the yuan as a reserve currency, with the International Monetary Fund adding the yuan to its basket of reserve currencies back in 2016. More recently, China entered into an agreement with Brazil to eliminate the US dollar as an intermediate currency for their bilateral trade. Under the new agreement, Brazilian and Chinese businesses will be able to conduct their trade transactions in their respective currencies. Russia has also been working to reduce its dependence on the US dollar. In 2014, following the imposition of US and EU sanctions over its annexation of Crimea, Russia began to move away from the US dollar in its international transactions. It has signed currency swap agreements with other countries, and it's been increasing its holdings of gold as a way to diversify its reserves away from US dollars. In addition, Russia has been promoting the use of other currencies such as the ruble and the euro in its international transactions. Iran is another country that has been actively pursuing de-dollarization. Iran has been under US economic sanctions for many years, and it's been working to find ways to conduct international trade without using the US dollar. It's signed currency swap agreements with several countries, including China and Russia, and it's been exploring the use of cryptocurrencies as an alternative to the US dollar. Other countries, such as Turkey and Venezuela, have also been exploring de-dollarization as a way to reduce their exposure to US sanctions and reduce foreign exchange risk. In addition, some countries have been promoting the use of alternative currencies, such as the euro or the yen, in their international transactions. Now, I need to mention at this point that de-dollarization is a gradual process, so the US dollar is likely to remain an important currency in the global economy for a while there. However, this shift away from the dollar seems to be happening more swiftly than many initially thought. Already, the US dollar has started losing value in the wider global economy, and its share in many countries' foreign reserves has been reducing. But there are even more potential impacts of this shift on the US economy and the wider global economy. Speaking of the US economy, as more countries shift away from the US dollar, the dollar's position as the world's reserve currency would only continue to weaken. This could in turn make foreign investors less willing to hold US Treasury bonds, which are a key component of many countries' foreign exchange reserves. This could then lead to a decline in demand for US government debt, which could push interest rates and make it more expensive for the US government to borrow money. A weaker US dollar could also lead to higher inflation in the United States, as imports become more expensive and the cost of living rises. And then there's the fact that the US could lose its status as a world power, considering that its currency has been a source of that power. Aside from the US itself, countries that rely heavily on the US dollar may face challenges as they try to shift towards other currencies. For example, they may face higher transaction costs, foreign exchange risks, or difficulties assessing international markets. But it's not all bad for these countries. De-dollarization could also create new opportunities for countries that are able to position themselves as key players in the emerging global financial system.
Yeah, boy.
Countries with strong currencies or well-developed financial markets, such as the Eurozone or China, are already well-positioned to benefit from de-dollarization. Probably more important, though, are the implications that de-dollarization could have for the global economy. One key area of impact is in trade patterns. If more countries start to use alternative currencies for trade, it could lead to a shift away from the current system, in which the US dollar is the primary currency used for international transactions. This could also make trade more complicated and increase transaction costs, which could potentially slow down global trade flows and hurt economic growth. Similarly, changes in investment flows could also occur as a result of de-dollarization. Currently, the US dollar is the most widely held currency in the world, with many countries holding US dollar-denominated assets as part of their foreign exchange reserves. If more countries start to shift away from the US dollar, this could lead to a decrease in demand for these assets, potentially reducing their value and causing market volatility. On the other hand, it could also lead to greater diversity in investment portfolios and reduce the risks associated with a single dominant currency, such as the potential for sudden changes in exchange rates or shifts in global economic power. By diversifying their investment portfolios and holding assets denominated in multiple currencies, countries could reduce their exposure to these risks and potentially improve their long-term financial stability. It's important to note that de-dollarization is a complex and multifaceted issue, and its implications are not yet fully clear. It's possible that de-dollarization could lead to significant changes in the global financial system, or it could be a gradual and incremental shift towards a more diverse and multipolar system. Regardless of the outcome, it's important for policymakers, businesses, and individuals to be aware of the potential implications of de-dollarization and to consider adapting their strategies accordingly. If you enjoyed this video, consider hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel for more videos like this. Have a nice day, and see you in the next one!